Hi, welcome to the workshop for the 8th of April. Just a quick review of last week. FTSE was down 162, 2.5%. Dow was unchanged. Gold, turbulent week, but ended up $13 lower. That's just under 1%. Crude, Brent crude, that was down sharply, $5.35. That's what, 4.5%. Euro, that continued to rally or made a turn against the dollar in the face of fairly weak news from the States. The euro was 178 points better against the dollar. That's about 1.3%. As I said, poor data in the States last week. If we have a quick look at last week's calendar, it started the week with the manufacturing data last Monday, 51.3 versus 54.2. We know about the ADP data on Wednesday. That was weaker than expected. Also, the ISM non-manufacturing PMI, that was also weak. So we had a string of fairly weak bits of data. And then pre the non-farm payroll data, we also had the weekly unemployment claims, which were quite a bit worse than expected at 385. They can be turbulent at this time of year, the initial claims, but a poor number from on the non-farm payroll, 88 versus 198. But in fact, that's not the whole story, because we did see significant revisions to the January and February numbers, totaling about 61,000, which means that it was not as bad as perhaps it looked on the headline. Anyway, the market, believe it or not, the Dow and the S&Ps both rallied after the data, after the initial fall, I should say, and ended up higher than they were before the announcement on Friday. So not so negative in the outcome. This week, let's get on to this week's calendar. Actually, before I do that, just to let you know, we've had slightly bearish news overnight regarding Portugal, and there's a threat to their bailout package. Headlines here: Europe warns Portugal over austerity measures. An article in the FT: Portugal faces fresh cuts to spending. We've also had China was a little bit weaker overnight due to the new strain of bird flu. Other news: well, the massive Bank of Japan and monetary easing last week continues to weaken the Japanese yen, and on the back of that, the Nikkei has surged further ahead overnight. Okay, so data for this week, largely, let's get on to this start of the week. Okay, so German industrial production, that's important bit of data actually today, coming out at 11 o'clock. That is the first sort of major news announcement this week, and it's important for Germany, being one of the sort of standout economy in the Eurozone, obviously, and it's probably the only one that will have expanded in the first quarter. So that is important. Tuesday, we have the UK's manufacturing, production and trade balance there. The oil business has picked up. We had that shutdown that affected oil exports, but that's expected to have helped the numbers there. So 1.5% the previous month, expecting plus 0.4% for this month. Trade balance not really improving much at all, 8.5 billion versus 8.2 billion there. Then on to Wednesday, we have probably the most important number or announcement of the week. It comes at 7 o'clock, and this is from the Federal Reserve's rate setting committee, the FOMC. These are the minutes from the previous month's meeting. Be very interesting, because we're wanting to get some idea about quantitative easing and when the Fed is considering reducing it. The fact of the matter is, despite the numbers last week, at some stage the Fed has to take action to reduce it, or taper it as it's called, because it can't go from 85 billion a month to nothing, and that is something that the markets have been discussing more recently. So we'll be looking for further signs from the Federal Reserve about how that may or may not happen in the medium term. Thursday, we have the regular weekly unemployment claims, certainly a stronger number, or a less of a claims number than the previous week at 385. We're expecting 362. As I said, it can be a little bit volatile. And then Friday, probably the most important day aside from the Fed's minutes from the previous meeting. We've got core retail sales, plus 0.2%, and producer prices, that's expected to come in at minus 0.1%. That's a leading indicator for future inflation or retail price index. And then to cap it off, we have the first flash consumer sentiment number from the University of Michigan at 5 to 3. Still fairly healthy, 78.8. That's one thing that has been a standout, is the consumer confidence readings in the States, which is always very positive going forward. Anyway, thanks very much for listening. We reconvene on Thursday morning at 8 o'clock. Bye for now.